gives life, he takes it away. He is the potter, and I am the clay. When I view the last sunset and across o'er the sea, I know
them were either at Guy's Hospital in London, where I spent many years looking after his wife and taking her alternatively with him to treatment. I can say something about Fitz Reynolds that, you know, today we think of Jamaica and we think of Jamaicans as being not all wonderful, but we are blessed. We've been blessed to know and to share a life with one very, very special Jamaican.
Yes, God.
One thing that reminds me about, when I think of him, I think he was always a very humble person. But it's very difficult to be humble and yet maintain your dignity and your pride. And he never lost his pride and his dignity. He was the most caring person you would ever have met. He was loving. He loved his family. He loved his children. He loved his grandchildren. And he loved his wife to, honestly, it was absolutely heartbreaking to see him standing when she was having her treatment. And I stood here years ago, having traveled all the way, and the roads are bad, for her funeral. And honestly, I didn't look forward to ever making that trip today. But I wanted to make it for him because I felt he deserved it. And I am honored to be here with him. It would have been a lot better if we were both alive. But this is life. And I can ask you, please, to stand and help me in honoring a very special person. Please. Goodbye, my friends. You've done so much for me and you have given me so much pleasure in my life. He was instrumental in me coming to Jamaica instead of going to Trinidad. He said, Garnet, go to Jamaica, it's beautiful. You will love it. I've been here for 6 years now. I've not been back to Trinidad in that time, but in those 6 years, my wife will testify that I've been very, very happy. And Fritz, thanks for making your friend come to Jamaica instead of Trinidad. I know you're sad. I know you feel the sadness that I feel. He's left behind his children, Geneva, Ivy, you know, and honestly, when Geneva came back this last time, she stayed at my house and I said, Geneva, how is Daddy? He's good. The next thing I heard, he's passed on. God knows best. And we just have to accept whatever he does and when he does it. Please, please, please join me in honoring a very special Jamaican. Rest in peace, my friend. God bless you.
And the program, where this special musical selection have been here by Mr. Newton Tullow. At this time we'll take it.
Praise the Lord, everyone. Praise the Lord. Just lift those hands in the heavens and give the Lord a praise. Praise the Lord. God is good, God is good. I just want somebody to know today that in spite of how you feel today, this is the day that the Lord God has made. Yes. In spite of how you feel, I know you're going through a sad time now, but just rejoice and just be glad. because God knows all things. Amen? Amen. Praise the Lord Jesus. There is come, being a day when no heartache shall come, no more clouds in the sky, no more tears in the eyes, only peace forevermore on that happy golden shore. What a day, glorious day that will be. I feel like I want to sing this one more time. There is coming a day when no heartache shall come, no clouds in the sky, no more tears within the eyes, only peace forevermore on that happy golden shore. What a day, glorious day that will be. Somebody help me sing. What a day that will be when Jesus I shall see. When I look upon His face, the one who saved me by His grace. When He takes me by the hands and leads me to the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. Thank you, Jesus. There be no sorrow of death, no more burdens to bear, no more sickness, no pain, no more partying over there, and forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be. In the church, what a day that will be when Jesus I shall see. When I look upon His face, the one who saved me by His grace. When He takes me by the hands and leads me to the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. Let's put our hands in the sky and speak while we sing this verse one more time. Then no sorrow day, no burden, no more sickness, no pain, no more fighting over there, and forever I will be with the one who died for me.
call him to come back. Alright, we come to the remembrance. Okay. We now have Victory Church collection in need of the church building booths. At this time, we come to the eulogy, and this will be done by Miss IvyMay Reynolds' daughter.
And I think you may be right at mine.
I'm so thankful for your presence here today to make this a memorable occasion for us. I thank for all the tribute so far that has filled in such a large portion of our dad's life that we did not experience. I now continue that life by doing the eulogy of Fitz Albert Reynolds, presented here today at the Shady Grove SDA Church, St. Catherine, Jamaica, on the 12th of February 2017. On the 10th of January 1927, Retinella March gave birth to the son of A. Reynolds, a jockey from Cross Sales, Clarendon. He was born in Barton and grew up with his maternal grandparents in Mead, Mount Pleasant. In his teenage years, he went to Clarendon to live for a while with his father, but soon returned to St. Catherine. On returning to St. Catherine, he started his adult life as a shoemaker by trade. He had his shoemaking shop in Mackettree, where he worked alongside Master Isaac. He also worked as a trainee builder with a Mr. Williams from Petrosil. One of the buildings he worked on was a grocer's shop of Mr. Vincent Hennings. His close relationship with the Hemmings boys and other young men in the district allowed him to notice the beautiful, charming, and loving daughter of Vincent and Alberta Hemmings. Respectfully, he approached Mr. Hemmings to ask permission to marry his daughter. This led to a union that saw the birth of their firstborn child, IvyMay, in 1956, followed by Earl Martin in 1958 and Geneva in 1960. He answered the call to go to England, leaving in 1960 along with his two brothers-in-laws and their cousin Frank. In England, he immediately found work in the construction industry, working as a carpenter joiner. His wife joined him in 1963, one of the worst winter on record in England. They must have kept warm, for in January 1964, Anthony was born. Working together, building a home in a foreign land, they desired to have all their children together. So in December 1967, they were joined by Earl and Ivy. In 1968, the family grew with the birth of twin girls, Yvonne and Maxine. In 1970, he convinced my mother to send for Geneva, the child born after his departure to England. At the age of 10 years, Geneva met her father for the first time. The bonding was immediate for him. She reminded him so much of his beloved sister, Aunt Esther Thomas. By 1971, his family was complete with the birth of 3 more sons, Paul, and twins, Dennis and Derek. A hard worker, he provided faithfully for his family as an employee of the firm McAlpine. In the late 70s, he became a subcontractor to be his own boss. This led to him working at some very prestigious addresses in the city, central London, and Purley. He still practiced his other skill of barbering, which led to him being known affectionately in Brixton as Barber. Despite the full family commitment, Daddy also enjoyed an active social life. He was a keen darts player and was part of the local pub team. His love of music and equipment, a good record collection, meant he was in demand at weekends to play at house parties. By the mid-80s, Daddy's own working life reduced as he became more active in the first of the family businesses, Reynolds Food, in Ferndale Road. In 1991, supporting his sons, he returned to barbering at Twin Barbers in Cold Harbour Lane, Brixton. By 1995, he was again fitting out another shop with the opening of Miss Ned's Good Food Takeaway in Brixton, London. He spent the days between the two shops, cutting a few hairs, then going to the food shop for his meal. He ultimately became the chef who cooked the rice and peas. After attending his brother Ernest Reynolds' funeral in Jamaica with Yvonne, they were invited to and attended a crusade held at Kissington Estate Church. On his return to England, there were signs that my mother's earnest prize for the salvation of her husband's soul was happening. It did not take much persuasion for him to attend another crusade, this time at the Brixton Estate Church. Before the close of that crusade, he surrendered his life to the influence of the Holy Spirit and was baptized. Amen. With the birth of grandchildren, On his 7th birthday, he was surrounded with friends and family and remarked, "Enid, look at all of them. What started just me and you in England?" Our dad was a man of few words, but anyone he counseled related to the wisdom he possessed. He had a good relationship with his brother, who often spent time visiting their home in England. Apart from Aunt History and Harold Thomas, his mother's other children, he has other brothers and sisters on the Reynolds side of the family tree. By 2000, my mother's health began to deteriorate to the point where she had to visit hospital at least 3 days per week for treatment. Dad was there and by her side, shouldering the responsibility to the best of his ability. Finally, in 2009, she died, leaving him after 54 years. Dad's expression was, "She's younger than me, I will go before her." That was not the case. So in the winter month of January 2010, he brought her from the cold to rest next to her mother in this warm climate. His will to go on without his healing was not there, and we almost lost him within 6 months of her death. By God's grace, he recovered, but not to his vibrant self. But he was still our father, and we loved him. With love and care, he lived another 6 years. On the 29th of December 2016, his heart gave up, and now our assurance is he is at peace. He is at rest, and we know he passed this way by the lives he touched and the works of his hands. Although only a small part of his British family is here today in England, where they all live, he leaves to mourn the other 6 children, at least 23 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. As his desire was, he will now be laid next to his wife, awaiting the glorious resurrection day, when we trust they will both rise to live with the eternal Lord of the universe, of heaven and earth. Rest in peace, Fitz Albert Reynolds, Master P, Daddy, Dad.